Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, maybe 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
Baller rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, still on the airwaves, coming at you on a Wednesday. I hope you're having a great midweek day. Hope this episode brings a little positivity in your life. It's getting that time of year when you might want to get out there and do a little land management. I think this is the time of year. Last year we were thinking about doing a little burning, getting a little bit of little food plot work, getting ready, prepping. So we had Brett Smith from Whitetail Land Management come on. Guy is super knowledgeable about everything you can do to your land to improve your whitetail. Even if you're not interested in hiring this guy to come do the work, there's a lot of knowledge in here that you can do yourself, and he even says that. But if you're the guy out there that has the means to hire a guy, I would definitely do this. You can tell he's ambitious, really gets after it, and knows what he's talking about. So let's get into the show, or let's get into the people that make this possible. Then we'll get into the
jump
show.
ahead here.
Yeah.
We got bills to pay, son.
Let's start out with the VIP veteran broadhead. Still supporting us. Cannot say enough for Matt and Cindy. Great company. Check out the Combat Veteran coming out very soon. Do you have the VIP veteran broadhead shout out?
Yeah, this VIP veteran broadhead shout out is sitting from my stepmom, Tammy. They just moved to Aledo a couple years ago, and their old neighbor, Adam, he was a sergeant in the police force, which we do support, and told her that he listens. So she thought that he would be a good shout out for this week, and he is also related to Logan and Michaela.
Cool.
Logan Bolkus
Yeah.
and soon to be Michaela Putnam. So very cool, very close to us with the Last Breath guys there. And Adam, we appreciate you for your service with the police.
Yeah, that's cool, man. We like to shout out the military, but police, firefighters, ambulance, all you guys, EMTs, volunteer firefighters, you guys all do a great deed, and we appreciate you. So let's get into Ingram's Outdoor Obsession, all your custom taxidermy needs. I'm excited to hopefully take a turkey up there this year.
No.
I just bought the Indian head for my one from last year, so I am going to go up to Ingram's, and we're going to do that together.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah, so hopefully there's room out here for it somewhere. We'll find a spot. All the bucks in here.
Say we're running out of space.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah. So if you guys do end up shooting turkey in the local area, check them out. I just seen some people on Facebook looking for a turkey taxidermist. I guess a lot of people are charging hella money for turkey full body. So check him out. And ECW, all your custom call needs, you can check them out in Farm King now in Canton, making moves. So Jeff's making moves, getting that turkey call. He said it will be available before turkey season in Farm King. So all our local listeners that want to try it out, go ahead and hit that up. He's also, if you follow his Facebook page, going to a lot of shows this year.
Yes.
He's going to be in Tennessee. He was just in Kentucky. So check that out if you want to check out his calls. You might be able to find him local and be able to play with the calls a little bit before you buy them online. So. And check out Exodus Trail Cams. Still supporting the show. Can't say enough about them guys. Love the brand. Love the product. Love the people running it. All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Brett Smith on. He's going to talk about everything whitetail management. How you doing tonight, Brett?
Not too bad. How you guys doing?
Doing real good. I appreciate you coming on and spitting some knowledge. We need some knowledge in this craft. We do a little bit, but there's always more you can do, and I know there's going to be something in this that we're talking about. We're going to be like, need to do that. So go ahead and give the listeners a brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Brett Smith. I'm the owner of two companies. One is Whitetail Land Management Services, which is a habitat management company. We go and we help hunters out who own private parcels throughout the United States, kind of just creating better deer habitat and ultimately just making the overall experience, whatever their goal is, more enjoyable. So, I mean, we range from all types of different properties that we help out on, and basically, like I said, we write habitat management plans for those clients. And then the other company, I'm the co-owner of Rise and Grind Outdoors, which is actually a company and show that I got going on with my buddy, Corey Anderson. He's the number 5 UFC light heavyweight in the world right now. He's actually fighting next weekend. He was actually on Joe Rogan's podcast last year. So we are also actually starting something up. It's kind of in the beginning stages right now. So that's who I am.
Wow, this is way below Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's awesome. You said that you guys were starting something out, and I absolutely love when people take the initiative to go after it. We actually have homie had some friends that finally took the leap and did it.
Yeah.
So it's just exciting to see people do that and grow, and we get to follow them. And there's a lot of people out there killing whitetails, doing it a lot of different ways, and it's cool to see how other people do it because it can inevitably make you a better whitetail hunter in the end. So
absolutely, like I said, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there. I mean, it's cool to take in everybody else's tactics and stuff like that. You always got to be an open book with that stuff, and some guys like to do things their way, but and that's fine. That's just, it never hurts to keep an open ear to something else something else that somebody else might have tried. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no right or wrong way to hunt. You hunt how you think you want to hunt, and whether you get it done or not, to be told. But I mean, I can't tell Cody, and you can't tell me, well, hey, what you're doing's dumb. I mean,
yeah, if you're being successful
right,
and getting it done, there's some tactics that we learned on this that I was like, man, I would never do that. That would never work. And then there's some that I'm like, man, that would probably work. But if I never try the one that I'm like, that is dumb, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I try it, it works. I'm the dumbass then, you know what I mean? So
exactly. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But we'll get you into why we had you on, other than the BS session we just had there. But so you're doing all thing whitetail management. You're doing multiple different states. You said you're in Illinois and now you're in Missouri. So I'm kind of gonna do a scenario for you. I want to run a couple. What are you looking at?
I was looking at your spill.
Yeah,
it's a lot bigger than it looked over here.
Yeah, I had a little stumble. But yeah. So I'm gonna do a scenario. We're gonna do 2 here. So I'm a guy. I'm from Illinois, and I have a 45-acre piece. A little bit of ag, little bit of timber, kind of mixed, mostly timber, a little bit of ag. What would you walk in and suggest that I would do?
There's so many of these scenarios that people ask me about, and they always want, what's the perfect answer to this? What's the perfect answer to that? I mean, it's hard to say without actually being physically on the property, but the first thing I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at is what your timber stand improvement looks like. What are the ages of your trees? Do you have browsing cover at the deer's level where it's actually usable, things like that. So then we're going to attack that with some sort of timber stand improvement, most likely if necessary. Going to look at access routes. Hopefully we can come in from the eastern portions of your property with predominantly westerly winds, things like that. And then you mentioned there's agriculture. Well, let's say it's all dependent upon the amount of agriculture. Is it strictly for food plots? Are you a farmer? Things like that. It all depends, on the size of the acreage. I mean, anything less than, let's say, minimum 3 acres, really, beans are a big thing I really like to plant. But if you don't have enough acreage, I mean, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because, if you have higher deer numbers, it's hard to maintain, that type of food plot. So there's a million different ways, a million different directions you could really go with it. It's just trying to put all the puzzle pieces together, the food, water, and cover. And I really try to focus on the food and cover, because a lot of times deer get, a large majority of their hydration through their natural browse. So I'm really focusing on the food and the cover. And those are the first things I'm really looking at. And worst case scenario, we want to just have as much cover as we possibly can compared to your neighbors, so that when the gunshots start firing and the guys start, walking in the woods and not paying attention to access or wind or thermals, things like that those deer use the escape routes to get to your property. So it's kind of all over the place.
I like how you approach that, because we always say that situation with every property, And one thing that I can touch on huge that you said that we see a lot around here is the timber stand improvement. We hunt some places, and we have in the past, that it's just big oak timber, and it looks absolutely beautiful. You can just imagine giant deer running, and just deer vacate it. They do not want to be anywhere in it. It's too open. Like shotgun season, they're edging. They're just barely edging the corner of the thick stuff just to get through there, and that's how we're successful, because we're using all this open ground they're not going to be there, so we're eliminating that. But if a guy was to go in there and eliminate some of those bigger trees and let some undergrowth grow in, that property would be 100 times better. It would hold deer, and not just have a pass-through kind of mentality.
And if you run
Absolutely.
cams,
And like I said, this whole thing, it's not rocket science. At the end of the day, you just want to make every single bit of your property as usable as you possibly can. I mean, if you only got 45 acres, at the end of the day, you're not holding very many deer. I mean, deer are going to leave your property. That's just the reality of it. So you got to be able to make sure that you're using every single acre of your property in some way, shape, or form, so that it's beneficial to the deer herd ultimately.
I was going to say, just like in the scenario Cody was talking about, if you run cams there like in the summer or, the really early fall, when you still have, most of the foliage and, not that heavy, dense browse or cover, the deer are going to be there. But when it does open up, during the rut or late season, just like Cody said, the deer aren't going to be there. And, you might be banking on them trail cameras from early in the year, being like, yeah,
it's a great place to get summertime pics. Yeah.
And you're going to have a false sense of security that the deer are in the area when actually, and it looks good, it looks good. So you're going to have that false sense of security that, deer are there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, the main thing is really focusing on that time of year when gun season start rolling around. I mean, if you don't have the foliage or the cover or, the browse or anything like that in your scenario, I mean, you're losing a lot of deer to your neighbors, and ultimately you're probably not seeing a ton yourself. So yeah, I mean, early season, everybody has the opportunity to get a little bit more lucky, I would say, just because there's cover and browse in a lot of places. But like I said, if you have the cover, and especially the food when the leaves drop, I mean, that's a big win for sure.
And another thing you said was beans. We had this scenario this year. We planted probably about an acre, and we had a lot of beans late season still, but the amount that the deer ate before they were even 3 or 4 inches tall was staggering. We had deer on cam just out there bedded,
Yeah.
And getting up and eating and then bedded in front of the cam. So we lost a lot of beans. So I could see, like you said, you need a substantial food plot when you do beans to have that late season food if you have high deer numbers. Luckily for us, later in the year, the deer kind of vacate that area, and we still got beans out there. So, but if they were there, during the late season, I mean, a couple of days they'd had that plot wiped out.
Right.
And we definitely had.
And what? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
One of the tricks that I use to keep deer off beans a lot of times, as soon as you plant them, and I'm not the first person to ever say this, but using Milorganite is a big thing that I like to use to keep the deer off the plots. It's a human byproduct, basically, is what it is, and just reeks, and the deer don't want to smell it when they're eating the beans. But once those beans hit, 8-10 inches, I mean, it's really not working that well anymore, and those deer get in there and they kind of terrorize those plots anyway. So like I said, that's why I like to have around 3 acres minimum, depending on where we're prescribing food plots, throughout the country. I mean, it all depends on the deer herd, things like that. But worst case scenario. Otherwise, I'm telling a lot of my clients to end up going with corn, especially if they're looking to hunt late season, just because you're getting so much more actual, browse per acre corn versus beans.
Yeah, I mean,
So
they're not out there eating the corn stalks early, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
the beans. So
exactly.
you know that you're going to have something if the plot comes through, you know you're going to have some late season because they're not going to be in there and, early season wiping it out. So I like that tactic too. And he said we could plant corn up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I mean
okay.
that might be something we think about.
I
Yeah.
just had to be a green.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on is something that Cody and I have really put an emphasis on the last 2-3 years, and you mentioned it right off the bat, is access, especially with the predominant wind. And this is why you're the professional, and we're talking to you. And are a lot of people really starting to focus on access now?
Here's the thing. I mean, that axis is huge, and everybody talks about wind. You brought up wind direction. One thing that I never hear anybody else say that is something that I live by is I almost rank thermals higher, especially with where I'm living and where I'm hunting. I'm ranking thermals higher a lot of times than wind direction. Let's say I'm going to go out in the morning, and like I said, I'm kind of going off on a little bit of tangent here, but let's say I'm going out in the morning. Thermals are rising, obviously. That's a basic concept that most people know. If that wind's under, I don't care what the wind direction is, if it's under about 5 miles an hour, I'll push it up to about 7 miles an hour. It's starting to get risky at that point, but if it's 5 miles an hour or less, I don't care about the wind direction most times, and it's dependent upon topography and things like that. So, prime example, this year I had a deer that was bedding up towards the northeast. I had a southwest wind. I went in there on a morning hunt and I killed him. He walked right to me. Thermals carried my scent right over his head. So a lot of times when we're talking access, I mean, it depends where we are throughout the country and what your topography is like and things like that. But paying attention to wind speeds and thermals and then wind direction, and trying to put the puzzle pieces together is definitely, something that you want to do. I mean, if you're not paying attention to your access, whether you're leaving, ground scent in the wrong areas or whatever, you're killing your chances.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. We try to look at everything. Wind direction is our main thing. It doesn't seem like, I mean, in the mornings it's maybe some days, but it doesn't seem like we ever have like just low light wind days when the hunting is good. It always seems like it's a 10, 15 plus wind mile an hour, like in the rut, And I think a lot of it is when you get that northwest wind that we get, there's always something coming with it. That's and when you're hunting around a cold front or something, so the winds are always higher. So, but I 100% agree with you. Early season we do that a lot. We might press it a little bit if it's a light wind, and we can play the thermals in the morning. And then also early season we tend to hunt not our best pieces, so we also feel like we can press it a little bit more. And if we bump something, then we're not on our main.
I want to elaborate a little bit on the topography part because we had to stand deep, and we didn't hunt it because the access is, it's limited to keep it prime. So we waited until the rut when we could actually go back there, and there was 2 or 3 different winds we hunted back there on, and it was more of a west wind when we hunted back there because of how the deer were using the area, and it didn't really seem to matter if it was, a northwest or a southwest, but that wind was always kind of coming at us at a northeast, just the way it was swirling down there. And, that's something that we noticed on like the second hunt down there is like, I know that we have a west wind today, but it's coming at us down here at this location from the northeast.
Yeah.
And, that's something to kind of keep in mind. You're waiting to hunt a stand on a specific wind, but due to the layout of the land, it's coming at you in a different way.
That wind could be the complete opposite of what you actually need when you're in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And unless you go out there with milkweed or a smoke bomb or something like that, you really don't know until it's too late. So that's why banking on those low wind days where you can really bank on the thermals, it's a little bit more predictable. Those, a lot of people like that 10, 12 mile an hour wind. If I can get there in the morning and not have to worry about my wind at all because I can play the thermals, that's the ideal scenario for me. I mean,
I like that.
But everybody
tip,
else has their own preference.
Yeah, I like that tip because if you're wanting to press in there and hunt an area and you got low wind, but you got good thermals, I feel like that's a smart move because all you need is just that slight edge, and that slight edge is that your thermal is going straight up with a with a light wind, even if you are carrying that way, your scent's going to be so high at the point that it reaches a deer, you should be good. So that's something that we might try.
Absolutely.
We're going to be
And
more
like I said-
risky next year. I've talked about it a lot, but we're going to do some crazy stuff.
We're starting this already.
Yeah, we're going to do some crazy stuff this coming year. So that might be something that we try.
Honestly, that's the only way you learn is if you really start risking it. Because honestly, even when you do risk it, 9 times out of 10, you're still not right. You're always missing part of the puzzle. When you got it figured out, you generally know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So going in there and risking it and learning how deer are using topography and moving through terrain and things like that, or whatever it is that you can go and learn, by risking it. I push every single hunt almost, especially when I'm hunting public land around the country. I'm almost not satisfied unless I actually bump that deer out of its bed, because then I know, and then I can go back in there, pay attention to what the conditions were, come back another time, or maybe come back the next day. Maybe the wind was in my favor. He never smelled me. Sure, I bumped him, but maybe he comes back. You just never really know. So unless I bump him, I a lot of times I just feel like I didn't learn anything. Otherwise you're just sitting up there and guessing a lot of times. So risking it is definitely that's something I like doing for sure.
Yeah, I feel like if we went out on an out-of-state whitetail hunt, like that's what we would try to do is, really push it to the limits, because the last thing I want to do is go home after a 4-day hunt and be like, well, we didn't even see a shooter, because we were
Playing it too
pussyfooting
safe.
around the edge, you know.
Absolutely. That's the same thing with me. Like I said, that first day, I'm almost going in there and trying to bump the deer. I want to figure out exactly where they are, and maybe they don't come back to that spot day number 2, but another spot you might have scouted nearby that could be, the second best bedding area, maybe that's where you go then. So you really just got to push in there to figure everything out.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you figured it out, this month, and you're going to come back next month, you still know that area is holding a buck. So you gain that knowledge for I feel like if a good buck's in an area, he's there for a reason. I'd say this a lot. Like, there's good bucks there. There's gonna be good bucks there next year. It's just like. It's
Sure.
just if they're there, there's a reason that they're there, and they're going to continue to be there as long as no people come in there and alter them. You know what I mean? So, but let's get back on the management kind of things. Homie's real good at starting tangents, so I'm going to blame that one on him.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, so we're all good at that, man. I go off on half the stuff that I say never works. It's straight bullshit, but you know what I mean? But
Like you're going to be more aggressive this year.
You got to talk it out. You got to talk it out. That's how you learn. So
Absolutely.
we were talking about cover, you know what I mean? And one way is to do some timber stand improvement, get some undergrowth. But have you seen that to be the best way to get cover on a property?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, if we're talking about timber, going in there and using some form of PSI is generally what we're looking at doing. 9 times out of 10, I'm using the hack and squirt method. A lot of guys like using the hinge cut method. I mean, 1, I feel like I can knock out a bigger area by using hinge cut. 2, it's not, it's not as far as safety goes. You just never know how those trees are going to jump off the hinge. You just don't know. And 3, I mean, if you think about it, a hinge cut is probably going to need maintenance in 3 years. You go ahead and you cut that tree down. And in about 3 years, a lot of that growth that ended up sprouting is going to be above the deer's reach again. And then what are you left with? You got to go back in there and rehinge a lot of stuff. And it takes a lot of maintenance. So now I'm not saying I never use it. It's just something, where there's a time and a place for it, but hack and squirt method is something that I personally, find to work a little bit more from a natural standpoint, I guess. Like I said, getting immediate side cover through hinge cutting is necessary sometimes, but it just takes a lot of maintenance with hinge cutting. You can't go in there and hinge cut something and then just leave it, because eventually it just becomes a tangled mess, or it overgrows or outgrows the deer's reach. So that's why I kind of lean towards the hack and squirt method as far as timber stand improvement goes. I
got a couple of questions. I don't know what hack and stem means, or hack and squirt. But before we answer that, I want to get back on the hinge cutting. I got a question for that. So, in your opinion, when you hinge cut an area, how many years, or does it take years to make that an effective bedding area or cover area? Because I know some spots that was hinge cut on public, and I walked it the next year, of course, for sheds or something, and it just wasn't thick. It was almost more open than the other timber. You know what I mean? So how does it take a couple years for that to grow up, or?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, as soon as you hinge cut a tree, I put through trail camera surveys, I see deer using it sometimes almost immediately. Depends what's surrounding it and things like that. A lot of times they're going in there and they're browsing on that new hinge. So every situation is a little bit different. But let's say, you know, it was, you know, an area that had super tall trees, a large canopy, things like that, and there wasn't a lot of cover. It's going to take ballpark 3 years, give or take, you know, the side of the ridge that you're on, depending on, you know, whether it's southerly facing, northerly facing, things like that. I'd say ballpark about 3 years to really start noticing effective cover where, you know,
where deer is going to be there kind of late season. Because that's when I went up there. Like, it makes a lot of sense to me that you said if you knew where someone was going to do that and you could attack it like early season where that leafy browse is on the ground, to get in there and do that. But when I walked, it was late season, and like I felt like it was almost worse than the other places. But I was always wondering, you know, if someone did go in there and they're thinking, man, I'm going to create this awesome bedding area, deer are going to be here late season using this, you know, to be able to get some sun through the canopy but also have some cover. But it just almost seemed too open. So that would make sense. About 3 years, you get some more growth, and it's bad when like you walk through an area and you're like, man, this is just too open, you know. So I mean, I imagine a deer walking through there. I feel like they think it's like ripping the shower curtain open on a guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. And like I said, I mean, if that, in my opinion, that portion of your property is not usable. Then when I go to a property and try to write up a habitat management plan, I want every single acre accounted for. So that's my ultimate goal.
Okay, so let's get into the hack and squirt method, because I'm green on this, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah, so all hack and squirt is basically you go and you take a hatchet and you go at about a 45-degree angle and you hack into a tree. And all you have to do, because you've reached the cambium layer of the tree, is take a herbicide and spray it in there. So depending on the size of the tree, you know, maybe you hack, you hack twice. Let's say you do, I'm trying to explain. Without visually showing people, it's kind of hard. So like I said, you do it at a 45-degree angle, and then maybe if you got a bigger tree, you move 4, 5, 6 inches over, and you do another one, and you spray herbicide in both of those. A lot of times, if it's a smaller tree, you're not going to have to you're not going to have to hack at it twice, but in 2 different spots. But that way, that tree, it's almost like knurling. Do you guys know what knurling is?
Nope.
That's basically when you take a chainsaw and you cut around the perimeter of the tree, but don't cut all the way through it. Basically leave that tree, you know, standing there dead. So a lot of times you're not creating all the trash on the ground right away. You know, that's going to end up dying or whatever it is. It's going to naturally fall at some point, but that tree's dead as soon as you put that herbicide in there, and that allows for obviously there to be less of a canopy and the sunlight to come through. And like I said, as far as safety, you know, precautions go, it's a lot safer of a method. And it's equally as effective, if not more effective, and it's going to take a lot less maintenance than the guys who are out there hinge cutting. And hinge cutting, I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack for it. There's been guys who have been going out there and doing hinge cutting for years. And there's a time and place for it. But like I said, if I can get away with using the hack and squirt method, it's a lot safer, and I see equally as good, equally as good results, I should say.
I like that idea, man. You're still getting the sun down to the forest floor, letting that new growth come in. A lot of those, you know, I don't want to cut, you know, trash trees. You could do that too and kind of eliminate them. That is really not giving any benefit to the deer anyways. And then you're creating an area that you can just tell, like, even like if you go to a place that's been recently logged like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's just thick, you know what I mean? Or a new timber area where like there used to be an ag field, or used to be like a cattle pasture or something, you know, trees start growing up. It's just thick, you know what I mean? So I could see that benefiting. And then if you don't have to go in there and keep whacking trees to keep the new growth down, like with a hinge cut, you know what I mean? So,
I feel like with the new growth on the hack and squirt method, like I feel like that new growth is going to stay around longer than a tree that's been hinge cut that's
Yeah.
been damaged.
yeah. How long? I know a lot of people say that a hinge cut tree will continue to stay alive. How long have you noticed that they will stay alive? You know, I mean, I'm sure there's a method that you got to nail correctly to keep the tree alive in general, but
I mean, the rule of thumb is keep as much of the tree intact as you possibly can. There's been studies and a lot of people that I've heard that have seen them stay alive for as long as 20 years. Every tree is obviously different. It depends how it falls and things like that. But I mean, a hinge cut can stay alive for a long time. But like I said, you got to go in there and maintain it. I've hinged trees in the past that I got to go in there within 2 years, and I've got suckers that are growing up 8 feet tall. Well, at the tip of 8 feet, I mean, that's way higher than any deer can reach. So there you are rehinging a hinge cut. So they can live for a long time, but it's just how beneficial are they over time? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And then, like you said, it's a lot, you know, you never know how a tree is going to fall, for one, and then it could get hung up in another tree, and then you're like, well, I'm either going to have to take this tree down that I didn't want to, or I'm going to have a tree that's hanging here that could fall anytime, you know. And we've all seen the pictures of tree stands getting smoked by trees. You never think it's going to happen, or the buck that's underneath the tree or something
Right,
that's
yeah.
crazy. But like you
Yeah,
said, it's a
exactly. And
lot
like,
safer.
If I do hinge cut, which is very rarely nowadays, if I do, I'm always using wedges to try and manipulate which way that tree is going to fall. I mean, you can still never completely predict it, but it at least helps, you know, push that tree in the direction that you're aiming for, at least if you are choosing to hinge cut your property, at least.
Okay. So let's say I'm on a property and I don't want to do the hack and squirt and I don't want to do hinge cutting. What is another way that I could get beneficial cover, or is there a way?
Call up the local lumber company. Going in and doing a select cut or a clear cut, depending on the location, access, a million other things. You know, if that's something that you don't want to do, or you don't want to hire out somebody to go in there and do that form of timber stand improvement, calling in a logger most likely is going to be your next best option. And depending on the timber, you know, maybe put a little bit of money in your pocket. Other than that, if you've got, you know, open ground that you want to turn into cover, planting, you know, switch grasses, little blue stem, big blue stem, things like that are actually going to stay standing. You know, especially in the northern portion of the country, when late season occurs, a lot of times those grasses will all fall over, depending on what you have out there. So there's a couple different options, but as far as the timber goes, select cutting would probably be your next best option if you didn't want to do any of the other timber stand improvements.
Yeah, we've seen that where we've had a grassy area and then a heavy snowfall comes and it just wipes it out, and then you have no cover. So
Yeah, exactly.
having the right grass is the right, you know, blue stem is important, because you think you got this fire late season spot, and then you know you get a 3, 4, 5-inch snow that's blowing, and then it looks like a freaking crop field that's been disc out there because there's just nothing standing. So that's definitely something to think about, and we've found that CRP is something that deer flock to in the winter. I found a ton of sheds and you know, in standing grass. They really like that area. I don't know if they like it because there's more sun, or they can get out of the timber and they feel a little bit more safe there because they can see around them and they can hear a little better, or what it is. But they just like to be there in the wintertime. So.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, bringing up, you know, being a little bit warmer, a lot of times people talk about thermal cover and they talk about cedars and things like that, and how they think that's overly beneficial for deer, you know, in the winter and things like that. But how much sunlight actually gets through a cedar thicket, if you think about it? How much undergrowth is there within the cedar thicket? I'd rather sit out, you know, in the sunlight, like you said, depending, you know, on vantage points, because that's kind of generally how I find, especially mature bucks, they're always going to bed with some sort of, you know, vantage point over access or looking over something. But yeah, getting out in those open fields or wherever it might be that the sun can actually beat down on them is a huge thing late season for sure.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of people, oh man, you had a nice cedar deer are going to be up in that. I've never found very many sheds in cedar. Like, I might find one like a lone cedar out in the middle of nowhere, but not like a lot of cedars. Because like you said, when you walk through a cedar, there's nothing. There's not a twig. There's not a little puff of grass. It's just pine needles underneath. They're cedar needles, and that's it. And I feel like you said, there's no sun there. And once those cedars get so tall, the limbs on the bottom kind of die out anyways, and they don't get that ground cover. So I feel like the cedars would be good for like the first 5 years, and then
even so, you're just blocking out so much sunlight to the ground that you're not getting any natural forbs or grasses growing at all, and ultimately browsing on cedars. If deer are browsing on cedars, you're lacking food someplace, and that's not a nutritious or beneficial thing that the deer should be eating to begin with. A lot of times, if I'm seeing large cedar thickets on properties, a lot of guys will go in and actually plant them just with a lack of research and knowing what they're actually going to do. We'll go in and tell people start hacking them down and burning them, because you having an open grassland is going to offer a lot more food and beneficial cover to that deer than a cedar thicket ever would. Don't get me wrong, cedar thickets, if there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and that's probably where I'm going to go too. But I'm sure the deer, depending on topography and things like that, can find other places where they can get out of the wind. So it's almost like a desert. It's just like a biological desert for deer, a lot of these cedar thickets.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, that's interesting to hear, because like the way that I was kind of, brought up and raised, and, like cedar thicket is where the deer go in the winter, and, that's where they're going to be, because, they can, get in there, get out of the wind and stuff. But when you start thinking about what you would want in the winter, you talk about the sunlight,
no sun,
no food, so why would a deer go there other than for just a windbreak? But
and especially in the middle of a cedar thicket, as far as predators go, predators could come from any direction, sneak up on them within 10 yards. I'm not saying deer don't use cedar thickets. They definitely, there's probably a time and place for them, but there's other things that you can be doing with your property that can benefit the deer herd a lot more than a cedar thicket might.
Yeah, I feel like now that you said that, I feel like that has been put up like kind of on a pedestal as like a late season destination. And
absolutely,
with you explaining that, like it really, shouldn't.
I feel like there's more beneficial to maybe like a patch of 3 or 4 cedars out in like a grassy area. I feel like I've seen a lot of beds and sheds and rubs and stuff around that area. But I feel like when I used to shed hunt a piece that was just, there's ag and everything, and there's this massive, just like 20-acre cedars, Like, and you could just, you had to crawl through it, because you could crawl and get through it, And I never found any sheds there. So that just shows you that.
And just like you said, with the 4 or 5 cedars, a deer's still going to have vantage point, still going to have an escape route. But when you get too dense of an area, just like,
I wonder if
Brett
another
said,
thing is like the scent is so strong from a cedar, in that area, that it messes with their senses and overpowers them. That's something that,
if we smell it as much as we do, you know what I mean? Like, especially if it's been rubbed and broke open.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no way.
Yeah. So.
I'm sure it makes a small difference, but at the end of the day, a human has on average, I think it's about 5 million olfactory glands versus a deer who has well over 200 million. So I think a lot of times the thing that I've heard is, a human might smell cake, but the deer can smell every ingredient of it. So I'm sure it makes some difference to a certain extent. It might mask mask a little bit of something.
Before I ate cake, I'd be like,
their noses are the number one defense mechanism, hands down.
I need that, so when I walk up to a plate of cookies, I'm like, man, that one's got peanut butter in it. Don't do it, dude. That's my R. I just don't like peanut butter, so that would benefit me huge.
Those are extra large eggs instead of large eggs.
Yeah, like those are goose eggs. That's what you want. That's a solid one right there. But all right, so let's get into this a little bit more. So. Well, go ahead. You guys.
I was gonna ask, how often do you go to a spot that's, had a food plot and recommend like a change based on like the deer's already available natural diet? How often do you recommend like them put in like, a beet or, another late season plot?
going in and looking at people's food plots, 9 times out of 10 we're making some kind of change. Whether it's the method in which they planted it, whether they did a soil test or not. Honestly, on what winds you can even hunt certain plots would affect what I would plant. A lot of times I see northerly winds with that cold front rolling in and things like that. Deer are more likely to go to a grain field, in my opinion, versus a green field. So it's all dependent upon which winds you can hunt it on. And those are just things that I've seen. And, somebody else might see the complete opposite. So it's just something that I pay attention to and kind of keep in mind. But 9 times out of 10, if we see somebody, is doing food plots, there's always some sort of change, whether it's what they're planting, how they're planting it, when they're planting it. There's always something. And even at the end of the day, it's a more concentrated food source. Even if you do have a really good, thick property with a lot of browse at the deer's level, it's a destination food source. Hopefully, at the end of the day, where these deer are eventually getting to, and so it's always something that you can use within your hunting tactics, even if you have a lot of cover and a lot of browse throughout your parcel.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Druids always say like a warm up. They go back to the greens, they're on the grain. So that's just not something that I would think about. Like this food plot has to be dedicated to a north wind when, like, where do I want to plant my grain? It has to be a north wind. Like you're thinking maybe west or northwest, but you're not in your mind like this is a green field. It might want to have south wind on it because if it's warming up, you might get that first south wind after a cold front. That's something that I've never thought about. That's a really solid tip because I've heard that, but I've never associated that with wind.
Sure, and it's something that I'm taking into account. It's not the number one priority. I'm obviously looking at what else is around, what's on neighboring properties, things like that. What the area generally, in general, is lacking. I mean, it's just one of the things that go into that equation. When I'm looking at food plot placement and what we're planting. So it's not the end all be all, but it's definitely one of the things, I think about for sure.
I'm going to say, and I mean, most guys are planting food plots, late spring, early summer. They're probably not thinking about the wind, you know what I mean? The only time that, they're in the food plot, thinking about the wind is their stand placement.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about, where the deer is going to come from or why the deer is coming there. They're just like, I got to get food here. I think they're bedding here, so I'm going to, put a stand here, hunt it on this wind, and,
Yeah, they're not trying to piece everything of, like,
Exactly.
Temperature's different, so they might go here, or they might hit this water first and then go here. There's a lot of stuff to think about, and, like, we plan our food plot, like, we have a designated area that it has to go on this one property, so that it's kind of tough for us, you know what I mean? But we're learning on it. We're going to make some changes next year and try to do better, but we'll I'm sure food plot is a huge area for your management process. So if a guy could plant 2 food plots on his property, what would they be?
Depending on size, it's going to depend on size. Like I said, if I can figure out a way to, if I can plant beans because I can hunt it early season or late season, that's another thing. When are you going to hunt your property? Are you just the guy who's going to be hunting during gun season or the rut or whatever? Because there's always a time and a place for every food plot. But if I had to pick 2 food plots that I was going to put on my property, saying that I had the perfect scenario for each, I would definitely have a form of grain and I'd have a form of green. I'd likely pick soybeans, assuming that I had the right amount of acreage, and I'd be planting a blend of some sort. There's certain companies that I personally like working with just due to the freshness of their seed and the germination rate, but something with purple top turnips, daikon radishes, maybe some clovers mixed in, some white and red clovers, just so the deer have a variety. I'd like a little bit, best of both worlds. It would ultimately be my goal.
What's the company? We're all free range here, man. What's you?
Horny buck seed.
Horny buck seed. Okay,
Horny
I'm
buck
sure
seed
that
is
you've
the
used
company
an assload of different seeds. You know what I mean, going into this. So it's always cool to get people's perspective. That's something that I've never used horny buck seed.
No,
I've used a lot of different ones.
I personally got to know the owner over the years, and the guy, he's not out to make a buck. He's out there to just be an honest guy. He's at the end of the day, he's not in this business to be a businessman. He's in it because he's a farmer and he knows how to grow deer and he knows how to grow crops and he's good at what he does. He has the freshest seed on the market that I'm aware of. that seed is generally harvested harvested in the spring or earlier that year, and then in a bag by summer, and then back in the ground, hopefully, if you buy from him. So with that being said, the fresher the seed, the better the germination rate, the better the quality of the food plot. And that's strictly why I use his product. He doesn't pay me a penny to say that. I use it because it works, and that's why I recommend it to my customers.
Yeah, man, it's solid when you get that relationship with a guy, and you can just tell that he's doing the right thing, and that makes you want to use his product even more, especially if it works. But if you can see the passion that he has into it, and he's trying to do the right thing, that makes you want to use it even more. And we've got a couple people that we work with, like, we can just see the passion they put in, and that makes us want to use it even more, even though it is a badass product. But there's something that when people go above and beyond for their customers, like you said, he's not in it to make money, he just wants to do the right thing. That's when you got something solid. So we'll check that out. We got an area right now, like, I feel like if we could convince him at the scrape tree, if we could get something in that bottom corner.
Oh, man, yeah. That'd be
pretty solid.
We need a green there. That'd be definitely.
Yeah, I feel like they'd be pretty solid. Just to hold them, like they're just moving through there,
And there's already a scrape there.
Yeah.
A natural scrape.
They're coming there.
They're already there early season.
Yeah.
Marking. I think it'd really increase our chances.
Yeah.
Instead of just on a cold front.
Yeah, that might be something that we check into. So we'll definitely check into the horny buckseed and see what they're working with. That's a solid name,
Absolutely.
too. I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah.
I sometimes I ask them, why did you name the company that? But it's a catchy one. You never forget it.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
Yeah, once you got it in there. So I know a lot of people. You covered water just a little bit. I know a lot of people are big on like putting those little pools of water. You see them with like a stick in, so like a squirrel can get out if they fall in or something.
Yeah.
But have you ever done that or seen any? I just feel like you said that. In my whole entire time hunting, I've hunted next to water, and I've never seen a deer take a drink of water. Have you?
And that's the thing. Like I said, there's the majority of their water consumption is through browse. I don't waste my time with it. There's habitat management guys who are out there, and there's a lot of things we don't agree on. I don't waste my time putting in a little water hole. Sure, they might hit it, but at the same time, there's other things that I could be spending my time doing that are going to be more beneficial to my deer herd than putting in these little water tanks and things like that. I mean, are deer eventually going to hit them? Probably. Are you going to get some pictures? Yeah, but are you going to get, that's not, I'm not going in there focusing, on strictly hunting my water hole very many days out of the year. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe there's a time and place for it if it's super hot day and you decide to go hunting, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's knowledge. It's learned knowledge that a lot of their water consumption is taken through their browse. So they don't necessarily have to go and drink out of a watering hole every 2, 3, 4 hours like a human might. It's just something that's not necessary.
Yeah, I couldn't really agree with that more. I ran a trail camera over a flowing creek for 2 years. And I have one picture of a buck taking a drink, and it was during the rut, so I don't know if he was just, coming off a doe or something, but literally on a creek crossing, and I just don't know if they just don't drink from a creek crossing or whatnot, but
I'm sure they do. It's just like I've never seen
like you're already crossing there. Why not just get a drink? You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. If they're already crossing it or they're going to the location where it just happens to be there, they'll probably stop there.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're not going to go walk a mile just to get to it when they're getting a lot of their water content through.
Exactly.
Through
I mean, it was like
browse.
It was like a mid-120s 8-pointer.
Right.
I mean, just your run-of-the-mill 8-pointer, just stopping to get a drink midday.
I feel like after rain, you always see like kind of a pickup too, and I feel like they're trying to browse on that moisture so they don't have to go to water.
Absolutely.
So that all makes sense.
That's something I haven't thought about.
Yeah, they're trying to get up earlier because the browse is probably more digestible, and they're getting some water because it's wet and. They don't have to chew their cud for so long. They're getting out there on that freshy stuff. But
absolutely.
So we're about 44 minutes in here. I want to kind of throw this at you. So if you could tell me, like, I don't care if it's 1,000 acres or 100 acres, if you could just make a property for whitetails, real quick, what would you do? Like, you just show up, and this is like your dream property. What is it going to have? Acreage, TSI, CRP, ag,
Food plot.
yeah.
I'm going to say that 70% of that property is going to be in something that I'm going to call a savanna. So savanna is going to have some large-scale trees, but spread out far enough so that there's enough undergrowth. There's enough brush, there's enough, thicket and browse that those deer, no matter where they are throughout the property, are always close to some form of cover, and on top of that, browse. So 70% of that property I'm probably going to have in savanna. As far as food source goes, oh man, I'm going to say percentage-wise, 15. It all depends where you are, but in the ballpark of 15% of that property, I'd like to have in food. A good combination of green and grain, depending on your conditions and your deer herd, number dependent and how much you're going to plant to this versus that. I'm going to have a good amount of planted food as well. So like I said, the main thing that I really focus on is just food and cover. It's a simple game, and as long as you know how to access your property, this property would probably be accessible from every possible direction. If let's say I owned a country block, a 640-acre piece, hopefully I could access it from every which way. Otherwise, worst case scenario, it would be from the easterly edge. So maybe if I had the J hook in there on a southwest or northwest wind, I could get away with it. Might be a little bit risky, but that property would have solid access. And like I said, just having the food and cover. It's really a simple concept. It's just you got to figure out how the deer are using your specific property, and then manipulate them in a way so that you can hopefully harvest them. It's not as in depth as people. It's in depth, but it doesn't have to be as crazy as people make it out to be. At the end of the day, it's a pretty simple equation when it comes to
just a lot of work.
You can never.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a lot of work, and you can never always say that the deer are definitely going to do this, because about the time that you assume that they're going to, they don't.
Yeah.
But just having that solid balance of food and cover, that's really what I'd be looking for, along with really good access.
I could see that, man. You have all that. I just love that overgrown, nasty stuff with just a few trees in it. I feel like deer just love that. They just and every time I feel like this is a good spot, it seems to work out.
I just feel like if there ain't thorns there, deer ain't gonna be there.
Yeah, like they just want the nastiest,
You know what I mean?
stickiest stuff.
And like I said, I'd want 70% of that property in it, but I wouldn't want 70%. I wouldn't want that 70% of it all being one block. I'd want pockets of cover where there's edge, where there's travel corridors and transition lines where I can go in there as a hunter and sneak in there and hopefully manipulate some movement and get on some deer. If you just have one huge thicket, that's
that's gonna be tough to get in on. Yeah, because you don't really know what the deer. There's no pinch points.
So would you take
Right.
4 parcels of 10 acres versus 1 parcel of 100 acres?
Personally, yeah, I would. I like having a lot of different spots, because what happens is, you got bad neighbors on one piece, or all your target bucks got taken out that year. Unless something magically moves in, you're kind of out of luck. I'm the guy who's always looking at the small properties, the overlooked places. The more options that I have, the better. Because let's say I got 10 acres here and I got 10 acres, 5 miles away. If I go and I blow out this 10 acres, I can always go to option B. One of my best properties for years, hunting in Wisconsin, was 17 acres. This year, I killed a buck on 5 acres, and he was a 140-inch deer, and he was the 6th largest deer that I had seen on that property. Actually, the deer I was going in there to kill that morning so the deer I killed this year, like I said, on 5 acres, I was going in there to kill a different deer, and this one ended up coming out of the same bedding area and giving me a 5-yard shot. I wasn't going to pass it up. Well, it ends up the deer that I was going after that morning, I did see him. I saw him 5 hunts in a row on that 5 acres. And and he actually made it through the year. So him and another 5-year-old made it through the year. So I'm looking to take one of those years. So put it in stone, guys. I'm taking him down next year.
Oh,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah, we're rooting for you.
Yeah, we're rooting for you. I'm following you now, man. I got to get you. You got an Instagram handle and everything. I got to get on that so I can follow you throughout the year. But one more question I had. One thing that we do not see people utilize around here, like at all, you never see it hardly on any property, fruit trees. Do you see any beneficial to that? Do you use any of that? That's like something that we like. Where can you hunt an apple tree? Like there's not like a lot of apple tree. You know what I mean? Like or a persimmon tree or anything like that. So do you put any stake in that?
Definitely. I mean, it's part of the game plan, but at the same time, you really got to, if you're going to be putting in a lot of these fruit trees, you got to pay a lot of attention to them. You got to make sure that deer aren't going in there and tearing them up and over browsing them and making rubs on them. You got to take the correct precautions to make sure that those trees are going to be able to grow.
Yeah, I got a peach and an apple tree in my yard, and they're an assload of work just for 2 of them. So I couldn't imagine having like 15 of them out in the timber. Like the first 5-6 years is when you got to put the work in, and then they're kind of self-sustaining. You know what I mean? You need to trim a little bit, but
you got to be willing to maintain them. And if you're not, then it's almost kind of a waste of money and a waste of time. I mean, it's one of those things. If you're willing to put in the time and work, then absolutely go have at it. But there's other things that are going to be beneficial that you could probably focus on. They're going to take a little less maintenance, but if you're willing to put in the work, I'd absolutely recommend it. That's for sure. It might be that one spot that buck walks out into your food plot and he goes to first. You know, it might be something that you can pattern a deer to do. Maybe he stops at that apple tree before he heads up to the destination food source. It absolutely could have benefits, but like I said, just be willing to maintain it, you know.
I'm going to say, the fruit tree thing is kind of something I've experienced firsthand, but not really like as far as hunting goes. But I bought my house in 2011 in November. We moved in Thanksgiving weekend. I was literally pulling into my driveway at 11 o'clock at night. And I have deer standing in like the road to the side of my yard. And, I was like, what in the hell is going on? And then they take off across the street, go right by my neighbor's door. In my backyard, when I moved in, I had a peach tree and a pear tree.
And you cut them all down?
I did.
Oh, my God.
But hold on, I'm getting to it. So, 2013, we had...
You know how much wine you could have made off those trees?
I made some grape juice, made some baller grape juice, because I had a grapevine on the fence.
That's gone.
Yep, that's gone too. So getting back to the peach and the pear tree.
Farmer homie over there.
Yeah, right. I had everything right in the backyard. In 2013, we had like a record rainfall in the spring. And then, like the peach tree, which was, producing really good, it had so many peaches on there, it went and it snapped the branches. So I'm like,
Sure.
Okay, like, what the hell? Like, this is not good. Next year, it sprouted, it had bud, and then when it come time to like get the peaches off, like before the peaches were even ripe, it was already sour.
Yeah.
And so just like you were saying, like
give
it's
it
going
one
to take
more year,
maintenance.
man.
No, I mean we gave her all she had, but eventually you just got to whack it.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'm tired of mowing over sour peaches.
Yeah, I mow over apples all year, bro. Lawnmower eats them right up.
I mean, just like they were saying, it sounds like a good idea, and the deer love them, and no matter what you got out there, if it's sweet, they're gonna be on it. But it's
takes maintenance.
It's a better idea in your head than it is when it gets out there, and then it fails, and you wonder why it fails because you didn't put in the work to keep it up.
You don't want to put an apple tree in a bedding area, you know what I mean? Because you got to go in there.
Yeah, right.
Put some maintenance on it. So.
Hey, I got some grape juice, bro. I'll bring it over. We can hit it with some vodka. We'll have a good night.
You got grape juice? Is it stored up still?
Yeah, it's
frozen?
It's simmering. No.
Oh, God, that shit is fermented as
Oh,
hell.
yeah. You probably don't even need no vodka.
All right, man. Well, let the listeners know. I mean, like we said, we've been talking about kind of, what you could do, but this is an assload of work, and you're the guy that's going to come in and take care of that for them, and you got the skills and the trade. Like, if someone told me to go out there and hinge cut an area or what?
Hack and squirt.
Hack and squirt. I'd be like, I'm out, man. I don't know what I'm doing.
Sure.
Let the listeners know where they can find you. And another thing I think is cool is, maybe you want to do some of this work. It's good if I followed your page just because there's good knowledge on there because you're kind of sharing what you're doing throughout the year. So even if you're a listener that doesn't want to, pay to have this done, he's a good guy to get some knowledge from on his social media. So let them know where they can find you.
Absolutely. So like I said, you can go and check out the social media pages on Instagram. It's at Whitetail Land Management. Same thing, if you go type in Whitetail Land Management Services on Facebook, you'll be able to find us there. And then if you want to email me directly, it's whitetaillandmanagement@gmail.com. And then, like I said, we got that up and coming thing going on with our new company and our new show is Rise and Grind Outdoors. Like I said, with my buddy Corey Anderson, he's number 5 light heavyweight in the world. He's actually fighting next weekend. Well, it'll by the time this airs, but he's a big hunter. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast, so we're going to be filming a lot of hunts all over the country this year. So we're going to be having content coming out in all different types of places. But if you go to Whitetail Land Management on Instagram, or Whitetail Land Management Services on Facebook, you'll be able to tie it all together and find us somehow. That's for sure.
Nice, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I definitely learned some good tactics that we might try out, and I know our listeners, and we got a lot of guys that have, small acreage. Some guys, shout out Next Level. I don't even know how many acres Scott has, but he's got a lot. He's got like 6,000 turkeys on it. Won't even share
I'm
one.
looking to thin a few out,
Yeah.
but
But man, we appreciate you coming on. We know our listeners are gonna enjoy this episode and get some intel from it.
Absolutely, I'm glad you guys had me on, and hopefully some people, if anything else, like I said, even if nobody chooses to hire me on, hopefully they learn something at the end of the day. That's my goal. So hopefully we accomplish that.
All right, guys, this is the outro.
I don't know if we have music yet or not.
Yeah, I don't know if homie's got music lined up or not, but we need like a 3 solid beat in between just so people know.
For sure.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I tried to throw some questions out there that I wanted to learn, so hopefully the listeners learned something too. It's time of the year to get out there and start thinking about deer season for next year already. It's
and off air, Brett's the type of guy that we could have back on. He's got a whole shit ton of knowledge, and if you guys have listened to this episode and you still have a question that we didn't ask because we're okay.
We're
at
subpar.
I would say we're okay at this podcast thing. If you have a question that you want answered,
he said
we
he
can
would
definitely have him back on.
Yeah.
No problem, and we can get it answered for you. So don't be afraid to send them in, and maybe late May, mid-May, throughout the June area when we're all trying to really focus on putting in them food plots, we can get him back on and maybe answer some of them questions that you guys have.
Yeah, and check out Rising Ground Outdoors. They got some big things going on this year, so I'm excited to follow them and check out what they got going on. And sheds are still following, guys. They're out there. Get your kids out there. Leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.